Guys, this podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Wrestling Collector Shop. The next time you're looking to add the newest wrestling figures to your lineup, you've got to go to WrestlingCollectorShop.com. Started by collectors, for collectors around the globe, Wrestling Collector Shop has been serving fans the latest and greatest in wrestling action figures since 2002. Whether you're looking for basics, elites, or ultimates, Wrestling Collector Shop should be your first stop the next time you're looking for wrestling figures. So make sure to go to WrestlingCollectorShop.com and use code SWOGGLE to save yourself 10% on your order. Again, that's 10% off with code SWOGGLE only at WrestlingCollectorShop.com. Hey guys, another episode of Going Postl, and as you see in the title of the episode, it's a small talk with AIW, Absolute Intense Wrestling promoter, owner, all the above, and performer at times, John Thorne. John has turned into a very, very close friend of mine. AIW was the first place I went after I got released in 2016. And we get into that. We get into a bunch of my fun matches, my not so fun matches, and kind of just all the above. Really, really cool pinch me moments included in the interview. And we just have some fun catching up. It's one of those weird interviews for me because it's me talking to one of my close personal friends. And those are always awkward. But they're getting less awkward. But before we get into that, this podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Wrestling Collector Shop. Use promo code SWOGGLE to save 10% over at WrestlingCollectorShop.com. I just put an order in for the newest set of Ultimate Editions and Elites over there. They have major bendies. They have Big Rubber Guy exclusives. Big Rubber Guys, exclusive major bendies, and all of your favorite WWE figures. WrestlingCollectorShop.com. Use promo code SWOGGLE to save yourself 10%. And also, got to get some self-plugs in. At Dylan Postl on all forms of social media, Twitter/X, Instagram, all that jazz. YouTube.com/Dylan Postl. We talk about it on this podcast. I just did a little video diary that I uploaded over at youtube.com/Dylan Postl about my last visit to AIW against Microman. There's so much more over at youtube.com/Dylan Postl, unboxings, free video versions of this podcast, video diaries, and so much more. youtube.com/Dylan Postl, dylanpostl.com for literally everything me. Merch. Dates upcoming, all the above. If you want my merchant, my t-shirts, prowrestlingtees.com/swoggle. We just uploaded a couple brand new designs, prowrestlingtees.com/swoggle. And if you're listening to this live on Wednesday, February 12th, tonight is the night we return to Whatnot, our February Whatnot stream, swoggleauction.com. Go over there. swoggleauction.com, sign up and get a $10 credit for absolutely free. A free $10 credit to Whatnot over on swoggleauction.com. Tonight we got some banger items, some Mattel Creation exclusive items on the stream tonight if you're listening live. If you want to support us over on Patreon, go to patreon.com/PodXchange. That's patreon.com/PodXchange for ad-free listening, monthly bonus episodes, and so much more. PodXchange over on Patreon, and all things shop-wise, merch. We have hats, t-shirts, hoodies, all that. PodXchange.shop. That is PodXchange.shop for all things merchandise PodXchange related. It's enough ad reads. It's enough plugging and all that jazz. Let's get to a really, really fun talk with myself, an AIW promoter, owner, all that in between, John Thorne. But before that, Ad break. Are you a fan of Disney, Pixar, Jurassic Park, The Office, or even WWE? Or maybe you just want a sleek and comfortable patterned shirt? Then you need to check out Roosevelts.com. RSVLTS.com today. Roosevelts makes the most eye-catching and comfortable shirts going today. Whether it's button-ups or polos or hoodies or even hats and everything in between, Roosevelt's truly has something for everyone. Made for those with the love of sports, pop culture, and so much more. And above all else, having a kick-ass time. This clothing is for the bold and fun, for those who dare mighty things. Roosevelts.com. Check them out. I have the man who has built my second home. The guy who has been the reason behind some of my most favorite and least favorite matches on the independent scene. A guy who has turned into truly a best friend of mine. And a guy who at 43 years old still not eat ketchup. Still does not eat ketchup or any condiments for that matter.
Never have, never
He
will.
is John Boy from Cleveland, John Thorne, promoter, owner, and extraordinaire of Absolute Intense Wrestling, AIW out of Cleveland, my second home. Hi, guy.
What's going on? I'm very curious to know what your least favorite matches are. I'm sure we'll get into that.
I just have to say that because I literally cannot give you all positive credit. That's the reasoning.
I am also not 43 years old.
I forgot to say how that you're an I had it in my mental notes about you being an incredibly huge Bam Margera and anything late 90s MTV connoisseur. Like, give you anything reality show, MTV reality show, and you're all about it.
Maybe. I don't know. I think
you love the challenge. You love anything challenge.
That's my guilty pleasure. Is MTV the challenge? I don't know if I should be.
Bam Margera, you're a fanatic of.
I don't know if I should be admitting that on such a prominent podcast.
Is the challenge not great, or are you just not proud of that being
exposing too many secrets?
Yeah.
Am I your least famous guest?
From Kofi Kingston, Freddie Prinze Jr. to John Thorne in Cleveland.
Oh, that brings me. That brings up a good point. Now that you brought up Freddie Prinze Jr., by the way,
here we go.
I've been booking you longer than Vince McMahon pretty much had you employed.
Knock it off. That's not true.
We're coming up on a decade of dominance, Little Dill in the Cleveland territory, and I can't even. What did your AIW recap episode clock in at? Like 41 minutes. A decade of your life gets 41 minutes. Freddie Prinze Jr. got like over an hour. I'm pretty sure.
Freddie Prinze Jr., first off, let me tell you, is, I'm pretty sure, an Oscar winner. And if not, he should be for Scooby-Doo. Secondly, it's Freddie Prinze Jr. Thirdly, do you want me to go into every...
If he's winning an Oscar, it's for I Know What You Did Last Summer, not Scooby-Doo.
I've never seen it.
I'm sure you haven't.
I just watched my first Tom Cruise movie.
But I was a little disappointed when,
you want me to go through every PB Smooth match that I was part of?
When I was looking at the podcast timestamps, not that I can't say I'm an avid listener of the podcast, but I did
listen to 0 episodes.
I did want to take a look and see what the length was of our of the recap of your illustrious AIW career, and for it to come in under 50 minutes, I was a little disappointed. And
that's with intro outro.
Just a few under it, Mr. Prinze Jr. I think was coming in at like an hour 9, and it's
with intro outro, John. Probably a real long. That Freddie Prinze Jr. probably had a really long intro and outro.
How many times did he ever book you? How many paydays he ever give?
A lot. He gave me a lot. He was writing for me.
Okay, he wasn't. He's not writing the checks.
He was writing for me.
Not the checks.
To get me the checks.
He's not filling the envelopes, buddy.
Oh, God.
Can't even give me a full hour?
I can't. Here's what I want to get into.
Let's go.
So,
let's get into it.
2016.
Let's get to the heart of the matter.
The heart of the matter, as you say. 2016. Little Dylan gets fired.
Rightfully so.
Oh, wow. And then your partner
you were there for
in
a while.
crime.
You did everything you could do.
I didn't know. Yeah, I did.
You had to spread your wings.
Your partner in crime, Chandler Biggins, the late Chandler Biggins. You and him are running the Cleveland territory in AIW.
Dominating it.
How? Because let's be honest here. The more I get to know you. Hold on.
Okay.
Let's be honest. You are the wrestling, the indie wrestling, the cool wrestler at that time, booker. Biggins is the attraction booker. How did he sell you on Little Dylan?
No.
That's how it always came off.
No. I will say this, that I don't know if you know this, is originally booked for that weekend were the Motor City Machine Guns, and Little Dill getting fired swapped that out.
I don't know that.
Yeah. So your first match, which we'll get into, which was against the Weird World. Do you recall your first independent match?
Yeah.
It was supposed to be the Weird World against the Motor City Machine Guns, which I'm sure.
Hold on. It was supposed to be us. It was supposed to be Hawkins and I against the Machine Guns?
No, it was supposed to be the Weird World. The Weird World against the Machine Guns.
Oh, God. I have no idea of that. It makes me sad that match never happened.
I can't remember why it fell through. I mean, we were always trying to book Machine Guns, and it was always falling through. So,
yeah.
But Hawkins was just like, it was 100% a Hawkins pitch, and was just like, hey.
Oh, I knew it was.
And at that time you didn't have to wait 90 days. So I think we got you a week later, 2 weeks later, or something. It was real quick.
I think it was 2 weeks. Because I got gear pants, but I still wore my WWE coat.
Yeah, because, in those days, it was, and this is why I didn't have to be sold on it, because, and this is what's different than now, and I don't think a lot of, it's so weird because it doesn't seem all that long ago, but it also seems like forever ago. And a lot of, I don't think modern fans realize this, but in those days, it was a race to get the first one because you didn't have to wait 90 days. So now people get released. You have to wait this whole 90 days, no matter what.
Yep.
And it kind of, it kind of loses its steam a little bit. And at that time, they would still pay you your 90 days and allow you to do indies. You just had to submit it and get it approved. And so we were Hawkins was booked already for the date, and he hit us up, and we were just and Hawkins, of course, knowing it's funny because I just had Heath in this weekend, and he talked about how kind of Hawkins taught him how indies worked too. And I feel like he did the same thing to you, because a lot of these guys get fired and they're and this now as a promoter, they come with this crazy fee. And it's impossible. And Hawkins does not get the credit he deserves for bringing people to the realization of how independents work and how you can make.
That's what I'm trying to do with guys.
How you can make more at a lesser rate with higher volume. And Hawkins that is how it works. But Hawkins was a name guy with all these relationships that could explain that. And we were working with him very, very regularly at that time, and he explained that to you.
Yeah, it was a very simple, hey, these are awesome guys. You can get consistent work with them. And it was a Hawkins, essentially, like those first few that he got me. I talk about it all the time. He got me so many dates, like in 30 minutes, and it was nuts. And it was a lot of buddies of his that he previously worked for and continuously worked for at that time.
And I feel like it was like,
he was a weekend warrior at that time. That was a different Brian. That was one kid Brian.
I don't even ask I don't even ask him anymore.
No, that was one kid Brian, and just wanting to be on the road and loving life. He would drive in to you with like Donston guys, right? Yeah, it was like a car full.
He'd do a carload from New York, and they'd pick people up in Pennsylvania along the way.
Yeah, it's. But he taught me. He goes, you know, your fun friend bookings, take care of them because you'll have consistent work for them. And I was like, I didn't care. I was getting to hang out with my buddy for the weekend. Right. I didn't ever know what it would turn into, obviously. And then it was from that weekend. I think about it almost every time I'm in Cleveland. My first J-Lit weekend, my first weekend on the Indies, and we're just hanging in a hotel room and just raging on night one and having fun and laughing. And I'm going, okay, this is what independent wrestling is. I can get used to this.
Yeah, and I haven't been able to get rid of you since.
legitimately, since that weekend, it's been like a mainstay thing. I talked about it on the AIW last episode of going Postl, and very quickly, I feel like I go from a random match here and there to the Brit Baker feud, which also thinking about it now is mind blowing.
Well, yeah, and I will say this though. So the first one wasn't hard to sell. When you became a regular,
yeah,
that was a lot more Biggin's push at that time.
Yeah.
You know, because at that time we're charging a lot less for tickets. Like money was a lot tighter, all kinds of stuff like that. And Biggin's was like a super advocate of like figuring out a way to get you on. You were on almost you started quickly after that first one, and then you do your little tour around the map, and then you come back to AIW and you become a regular on almost every show pretty quickly after that.
Was it him just like, hey, we can have something cool here, or just, hey, he's a fun little guy?
I mean, I think he just wanted to be friends with Hornswoggle from the WWE. To be perfectly honest.
That makes me happy.
I think it was a little bit of that, you know, at first, and then you know, just always just establishing those relationships, and you know, he just loved doing stuff like that. And then go ahead.
Do you remember the day of the Tracy Smothers match before we get to the Brit match? Do you remember how Tracy Smothers
was terrified?
I talk about it all. Terrified. What was it from your aspect? So I had a bunch of random guys. I had a bunch of random matches for AIW. I don't even remember them in this part because this is where it was before this was before the teaming up with PB and all of that. It was like just random showcase matches, and one of them was Tracy Smothers, and
I don't know.
I love Tracy Smothers. I've never seen a Tracy Smothers match. I didn't get the aura of Tracy Smothers. I loved being around Tracy Smothers, and post that match, I looked forward to any time I would see Tracy Smothers.
So Tracy Smothers was like a regular. Now I love Tracy Smothers from ECW and all that stuff, but Tracy Smothers was a constant in Cleveland independent wrestling from the times I was a teenager. He was always around on shows. He was always doing shows around here. So he was somebody I saw all the time. He was somebody Chandler Biggin saw all the time on shows. He was always doing shows around here. So he was a guy that, you know, was not working at the level of which he was working when we were going to the shows by this point. But he was a guy that I loved. It had that nostalgic feel for me. And to Tracy's credit, he would work around that in a different way. For example, of Tracy Smothers, you think he's this old school, grizzled, came up the hard way guy. And, his way of working in front of what he would call a smart crowd, like an AIW crowd, is he would do things like purposely call his spots out loud and stuff like that, and like miss them. And like he's found ways to adapt around his limitations and to become almost a comedy wrestler, later on in his career. And that's how he came about this match with you and Tracy Smothers. And he was terrified of this match. Like, this guy had been wrestling for probably 40 years at this point, and he was terrified. And I don't know, it's probably not true, but in my head, I like to think it's true that this is the night.
Hold on, is this the first John Thorne story of the podcast?
This is the night. This is the night where Sonjay Dutt learned how to become a backstage producer.
Yes.
Because he produced the entire segment. And, interesting, I believe, fun fact, is I think this match took place on the Johnny Gargano farewell show.
It was Gargano's last show. You know why I know that? Is because during Gargano's send-off, I'm standing by Sanjay, and Gargano, it was your night. It was your send-off. You deserve all the time in the world. But I was standing by Sanjay going, this is still going on. How long is this going to go? He talked for a little bit. It was on that show.
He had a lot to say, but so I'll credit that as this is where Sonjay really cut his teeth as a producer. Now, he's doing well.
He goes, that's who told me about how worried Tracy Smothers was. Like,
I'll let you say the quote. I don't want to say any little guy slurs.
I've wrestled a bear. I've wrestled a woman. I ain't done wrestled no midget before. That was the exact quote to Sanjay. I don't know what I'm gonna do tonight.
I got the hey John, hey man, hey man. Got the same exact thing after that. Tracy, just go out there and dance and do whatever you do. But he would always put pressure on himself because even though he had learned to become this like comedic wrestler, he was still a good worker in his heart. So then he always wanted to go out there and put on this good match. And like he had this internal struggle with himself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he
knew he still had the mind of that wrestler.
Right.
But obviously the body wasn't there as much anymore. Right. But he wasn't like getting over for that wrestling of his past. He was getting over for being Tracy Smothers, the fun dude that just pisses everyone off and does dance spots.
Right. And dances and yells at people and, makes fun of the Cleveland Browns and says he's got a helicopter on the roof and all that shit.
Before we go farther, how I knew about AIW was, and how I'm sure a lot of people first found out about AIW was Wrestling Road Diaries. I feel like that put you guys on the map huge, obviously.
We were in all three of them, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. But like, I remember the very first one and being like, oh, this is insane. That this place is, did you feel a boom after that or kind of like a wave?
I don't,
or was it just like, it was such a small part of it?
I attributed that more to Colt, honestly. Like, anytime you booked Colt, especially in those 2010s, into, even in the mid 2010s, like you always got a big boost,
every week on the podcast, he'd mention it.
Yeah. And I mean, you always get like, that was just that in, I've known Colt forever. Colt was on, I think he did his first AIW show in 2006. you know. So
Jesus.
I mean, I've known him for a long time. But I didn't really we didn't notice a huge bump, but it would be, when you put Cabana on after that, you saw different things. That was like a terrifying thing. Somebody sent me there's it's from the outskirt,
the outros,
or
the
outtakes,
the deleted scenes, yeah,
outtakes, and Cabana wanted me to do this thing where
with Brian, right?
With Brian,
yeah.
I was terrified. I didn't know who, he's just say you're not going to pay him, and I'm like, this guy's gonna kill me. I don't know him. But he couldn't have been nicer. But I mean, I'm not going to really expose the economics of Wrestling Road Diaries, but Cabana got some good deals for the Wrestling Road Diaries taping.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
because he was looking for good footage, and it was. We also did the next one with Gallows and Compton, which was awesome. So yeah, we were in all of them. It was,
and then the Grado and Kikutaro one was incredible too.
Yeah, that was So I mean, yeah, I'm that's one of the the proudest things that AIW's done is, we can say that we were in all 3 Wrestling Road Diaries. I'm a huge wrestling documentary nerd, and
yeah.
I love Beyond the Mat, all that, and to be in the I think those 3 documentaries are just I don't think they get enough credit for what
I watch them still to this day, just to as a relax of they were so ahead of its time,
and they I don't understand how they haven't gotten wider releases or something like that.
I agree.
Yeah.
All three of them for separate reasons too. All 3 of them are such different things.
Grado was messaging me the other day talking about our time together in New Orleans.
I have a mental note to bring him. By the way, this is the first one that I haven't taken notes for. So not only, it's not quite Freddie Prinze Jr. I took notes for him. I'm not taking notes for you.
Should have to take notes for him.
Okay. Straight out of the Tracy Smothers match, you and I in our luncheons, I start chatting with you about hey, what are the viral things happening right now, and something crazy for especially international markets was intergender wrestling, especially online was intergender wrestling, and I was like.
This was
what
your
about
whole
me and
pitch?
Brit?
Yeah, I don't think people realize that this was your whole pitch was that.
Yes,
the whole thing was your pitch, and we just went for it.
I was like, "What about me and Brit?" And you're like, I don't know. I go, "Let's try it." And she was more than game. I can't I can't thank her enough how game she was for everything.
The thing that people don't realize either. It's different to talk about it in 2025 context. But at that time, she is AIW student.
A student. Not a nothing, but a
local
compared.
Yeah, a local, Midwestern independent talent. Not a lot of notoriety at all. Hadn't really done much of anything. Maybe had started doing some shimmers and things like that.
Random extra work here and there, just as a Nia Jax body.
Right. And I don't even know if that had happened at that point yet. But so this was your whole pitch, and it turned out to be a super fun thing.
I remember going into that fans bring the weapons.
I think that's the last one, and
the final.
And somewhere along the way is when her and Adam Cole did start dating. And do you remember Adam Cole got involved and all that?
That's what I talked about in the episode. I was like, day of we go out to lunch, and you go, I think Adam Cole is coming tonight, and I go, what? He goes, yeah, I think he's just gonna come, and he was signed. He was signed to NXT at the time.
Not yet, but he was going. He hadn't reported yet.
Correct. It was reported that he signed, but he hadn't.
He was finishing. He was finished up or finishing up his dates or whatever.
Yep. But I was like, okay, that's awesome. yeah, let's do it. And it was just like to think about that Brit and what obviously has happened with Brit to this day is insane.
Yeah,
and you have I feel like you have so many of those.
From my perspective of Brit going to our wrestling school, I looked at it as if you can work with Swoggle in an intergender feud, you can make anything work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I looked at it as, a learning process, a learning, you know what I mean? Here is a learning opportunity for a student that's going through our wrestling program. And if it didn't work, it didn't work. But, just putting it up, it was just like you and Tracy Smothers, just putting it on paper was going to at least sell some tickets. And this is pre-streaming era.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? This is just selling tickets, so, and DVDs or digital downloads and all that stuff. So, but I looked at it as, it was a win-win as far as I was concerned.
So we go from the very, very fun matches in me and Tracy Smothers and me and Brit and even me and Super Oprah to...
What about, before you get into that, I gotta, let me see what you say for not fun, I guess.
You know where I'm going with this.
No, I don't know.
To the not so fun matches.
I was going to bring up Mordecai. I don't know where Mordecai is.
That was the first one I was going to bring up. Of me and Mordecai. Me and Eddie Kingston. Me and Scott Steiner. 3 that we're going to get into back to back to back. Mordecai, who there is now a famous GIF out there of him sling.
He shares all the time.
What?
Yeah. He shares it all the time.
Of him just slinging this trash can at me. So every year,
full
AIW
trash can, full trash.
AIW does a J-Lit tournament. It was the best weekend ever. It was a Friday, Saturday tournament. Now it's just a one day. It was the best weekend of the year. I loved this weekend. Many times, I got first rounded against people John would just like to book me against to screw with me.
Well, it was just
Eddie
good
Kingston.
fun.
Eddie Kingston.
That was a J-Lit?
Mordecai. Eddie Kingston was a J-Lit. I'm almost I'm almost positive. Because
Eddie Kingston was just I thought he was just
I thought it was a J-Lit because I thought he went over on me. I know he beat me. And then...
Or he said he couldn't beat you unless it was a tournament.
I mean, I probably wasn't available the next day.
I thought
so.
It was just a regular.
Was it just a regular? Either way, Mordecai, my first ever J-Lit tournament, I'm pretty sure. And I realize I've known Mordecai. And then you realize again how big Mordecai is.
At that time, he was looking for a run, too. He
wanted that run.
He was looking for a run.
He came in.
He was looking for a run.
As Mordecai.
He was
silver hair that he spray painted that day.
In the parking lot.
Right. Had you guys build him a cross? Yeah, just built him a ready. Cross, yeah. Ready.
But he was looking big, dude. He was
enormous.
He was trying to get that Taker match back, dude. He was trying to get that Taker match. He wanted that Taker match. He thought this was the stepping stone.
I didn't know what we were going to do. And I go, all right, let's just brawl around. So we're fighting through the crowd. And then we're fighting by the concession stand.
This motherfucker was, I don't know if I can swear in this, but this dude was ready to go. And he said, let's brawl around. This dude looked like he was straight out of the Ruthless Aggression era. Ready for SmackDown. And you're like, yeah, let's brawl around. Yeah, sell for me, kid.
So then we go to the concession stand and he sees this full plastic trash can as tall as I am. And I believe you're in the background of the photo. I think there's a photo out there of you in the background at the concession stand having a ball.
Oh,
and he slings this trash can at me.
I definitely had to get with the people for this one. Sometimes you got to feel a match with the people, and this was one for sure.
He slings this trash can at me so hard. And not only does he sling it at me so hard, but I'm not looking. And he just slings it at me in the back of my head.
For legal purposes, I don't think you got a concussion, but
I went down and I remember
you took a
looking up at you. I remember looking up at you, and you're standing there by, I'm pretty sure, Nick Sanka at the time, and just going, oh.
It was a good shot. You took a good shot.
There's that. There's the me and Eddie Kingston, where I had the great idea, and I sent a couple of AI dudes to get a bottle of 151 because I wanted to take a back fist that was on fire.
And
he talked me out of it. So I was very mad. There was then my match with Scott Steiner.
This is legendary.
So I don't know what got announced first. Was it the Nick Gage one, or did you announce me and Scott Steiner first? I think it was
you and Steiner got announced first. I'm pretty sure.
I thought so, but it was like really close. And you said to me, because we were friends at the time, you said to me, "Hey, I'm thinking about you and Steiner," and I'm going, "Sure.
Sometimes
Great."
I get some ideas.
And I didn't know he was serious, guys. And then he makes a graphic, and I go, "Oh no! Now it's announced. It's happening."
Why wouldn't you think that's serious?
Because it's Scott Steiner. First off, knowing you're not going to pay the money for Scott Steiner.
What?
Secondly, I was hoping you wouldn't do me versus Scott Steiner. Maybe like an Ethan Page versus Scott Steiner at the time. Maybe anything.
I don't like this accusation that
So,
just because you negotiated a bad contract doesn't mean Scott Steiner got paid and rented a Cadillac.
Scott Steiner shows up
and had to be able to sell at a WrestleCon table all weekend.
I remember that one. I remember that was one of my favorite parts. You had to go on your table.
And we got no money for it.
Yep. What, going into the match, did Scott Steiner want?
He wanted
for the match.
He wanted somebody short. He wanted short.
What did he ask for?
He asked for, if I knew anybody that's kind of short, similar
He asked
to
for
you.
another midget, John. He asked, we need a girl and we need a midget. That's what he said.
Budgets were tight. I'm not from the area.
You proceeded to book a girl.
I tried.
You tried to book another
really
midget.
I didn't really book a girl. There was a girl AIW student that was just there working.
Correct. But you got the girl. Did you get the other midget? You got Cabana Man Dan, who is taller than you. You're a midget. Yeah, he is taller than you. He is taller than you. Cabana Man Dan is 5'4" at least.
Well,
at least. So what happens that day, John?
You know what the price tag is for a little guy? WrestleMania weekend?
I do. Because I tried
weekend?
to get him that weekend. I tried to get some that weekend.
We were both trying.
So
sometimes you got to look around the room and you got to go, who's the shortest guy just standing around trying to get booked?
No. You told me you had Cabana Man Dan. I was like, oh, great, Cabana Man Dan. Must be like another midget guy. He shows up and I go, John, and you go, that's your midget. I go, that's my what? He goes, that's a normal human.
Oh.
Scott Steiner shows up and goes, all right, where's the other midget? He goes, that ain't no midget. And I go, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
And what was the idea? Why did he need it? Why did he need one?
I think because he wanted to beat one midget. And then he
wanted you guys to wrestle for a little bit, I think.
Oh, me and Dan. He wanted me and the other midget to wrestle. Him come out, get pissed off that there's two midgets wrestling. And then he then him and I.
I didn't.
But there was something with the girl. Like I don't remember how the girl was even involved.
A hot girl. I don't know. So you're forgetting the biggest part of this context is No.
The biggest part of the context is he asked you to book a midget and you booked a 5'4" human. That's what that said.
No, but okay. The show is on a Thursday night, right? When I pitched this to him, it was weird. Okay.
Go ahead.
And then I didn't know if he was gonna do it, and then he said he would finally do it after some negotiating. He rented the Cadillac, he got the WrestleCon table. There's some. I had to make some sacrifices for the remainder of the weekend. We agreed on a fee and all that stuff. So the show's on a Thursday. We are gonna fly to New York, New Jersey on a Wednesday.
Oh,
Mr. Steiner called on Tuesday night at 9 p.m. with these requests. You left that part out. I'm supposed to fly out at 5 o'clock in the morning the next day, and he called at 9 p.m. and he had all of these ideas all of a sudden. I think he was sitting around thinking about it, and he got really into wrestling. Because do you remember we were like, I don't even know what he's gonna do. He sounded not excited. Tuesday night at 9 o'clock, he was real into it, and he had a lot of ideas. He had theme songs he wanted played. He wanted Randy. He wanted the Randy Newman, Little People.
Yep.
He had a lot of ideas. So he got really into this Tuesday night at about 9 o'clock, had a 5 a.m. flight the next day. We were under a lot of time constraints to try to make this work. So I didn't want you to leave that part out.
But you didn't book a midget.
Well.
And you expected him to believe that this 5'4" human was a midget. That he would show up and go, yeah, close enough.
Well, it happened.
Okay. We had no other options. It was Commander Man Dan or no midget.
Well, we made do.
And then during said match, I'm going into it. I'm like, oh man, since he wants to do this, he's gonna be up for doing things. Maybe he'll take a German. Maybe he'll take a couple of them. Nope. I go, Scotty.
It was actually a good match though.
Because he killed me.
Yeah.
Do you remember that was the show that Luke Harper and Woods showed up for?
Yeah, and I'll never forget that because they came to watch, and Luke Harper put $80 in my pocket.
I remember that. That's right.
I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "No." He said, "Thanks for letting us come to the show." I said, "You guys don't get to give me any money." He goes, "No." He goes, "We want to support you." And he
Woods texted me that day, what time are you going to go on?
And he put $80 in he just put $80 right in my pocket.
Did you ever book him?
No, never. I
didn't know him.
No. I mean, I think he he was an indie guy, so
he knew of you. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But you never booked him on the independents.
No. We had never even met. That was the first time we ever, to my knowledge, formally met. We probably crossed paths,
Ms. Parties or something.
When me and Biggins would go to Chikara or something like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, we never it's not we had any sort of rapport or relationship. And yeah, he just slid $80 right in my pocket.
So we do the Scott Steiner match, which he beat the hell out of me.
It was awesome though for WrestleMania weekend. I will say this: you can say whatever you want about WrestleMania weekend. I feel like that was the WrestleMania weekend. I feel like that whole weekend was the WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah,
and I
don't think there was any topping that. Because the weirdness of all the matches on all the shows. All the shows were so insane that whole weekend. I feel that was the start of making it a thing.
I mean, it was a thing, and it's always been a thing forever.
But not like that.
But like, to me, like, it's just so polished, you know, and like,
yep.
I just think like, and you can see good wrestling any day of the week. You know what I mean? Like, it's WrestleMania week. Like, let's get a little weird.
Let's do the weird.
Yeah, and like, I feel like that whole WrestleMania weekend was like that. I mean, sure, there's great wrestling on it and stuff, but like, there was that weird Blackcraft show. There was like all sorts of just craziness that weekend. And
that was the first clusterfuck, right? I mean, right? Yeah.
I don't know if it was it wasn't the first one, but
it wasn't.
No, they had them. They had them before. Like, maybe they had them before, but it was just like they had the two shows. That was the first time they did the two.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Like, the one show was maybe just the clusterfuck. But,
yeah.
I mean, I think that whole weekend was awesome. And there's like, what I love about it is like, we were filming a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of stuff documented from that weekend that, you know, we can go back and watch. We got an Airbnb for the weekend, and it was a lot of fun. Like, and I look back on that weekend, it was like, you know, I'll always remember that weekend.
We go from me getting the hell beat out of me by Scott Steiner to I am supposed to wrestle Joey Janela on a normal AIW show in Cleveland.
Absolution is the biggest show of the year. It's our WrestleMania.
Oh my God, it was Absolution.
Yeah.
I forgot this is for Absolution.
Yeah.
So then Joey is not going to make it to the show. So then I go during lunch, gotta be you and me. And you go, not happening.
I want to point out, before this podcast, that I believe the last 3 times that I've been forced to professionally wrestle is your fault.
It's me. What was the one that Julian and I did the commentary for?
Lufisto. I wrestled Lufisto.
Lufisto. Where you get back suplexed on the ramp so hard, and because I said, you got to do it. You got to do the match. You got to do the match. No. You got to do it. Someone has to. It's got to be you. And so I told Julian that day, and he goes, "We need to do commentary for this." I said, "Yes, we do. Just because we can stand there and watch you get the shit kicked out of you the whole match." And we were standing.
Which I don't think she thought she knew I was a trained wrestler. She was just like, "What do you mean you? You guys are pitching this." And I'm like, "I'll do it. I guess, you know, like, I guess I have to do it." And she was like, so like, "What?" She's like, "So what about this guy?" And I'm like, "That guy's not as over as me. That guy's not as over as me."
I just remember there's literally a photo of Julian and I at the commentary table just dying because it was right after you get back suplexed on the ramp. And we can't stop laughing because you landed so hard.
Yeah, you're the reason I got to go to the chiropractor once a week.
But then Joey Janela's flight isn't making it. It's Absolution, baby. It's the biggest show of the year. People know me as a Cleveland staple by then in AIW.
And you do it again to me.
And I go, "Well, it's just going to be you and I." And you go, "Nope, not happening." And I go, "It's got to be you and I." And it ended up being you and me.
And I felt like Tracy Smothers.
It did not. I was Tracy Smothers working around you. Because you kicked the shit out of me worse than Scott Steiner ever could have.
You asked for it.
Every student goes, "Watch the clothesline." If you hit you a clothesline, I go, "Yep." "Oh no, watch the clothesline." If the clothesline was there, you kicked my arm.
I never had to practice a clothesline. You made me walk my steps and walk through it 20 times because I had to do like a get down on my knee thing to get you.
And you didn't. You still didn't.
I think there is a video of it somewhere.
Yeah, there's that. There's the video of you kicking my arm. pretty much through the barricade.
Well,
How about that one?
I thought you were trying to do some kind of elite level worker thing, like you were feeding me. You know what I mean? Like get that, just kick me over here. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, I'm just gonna kick his hand. I think he wants me to kick my hand. You were like, I saw you wiggling your fingers, so I was like, I think
to cover my face. That's what I was doing it for.
I was like, I think this is some WWE shit. I don't know. I never worked with somebody that's high level before, so I just fucking let it rip, just full kick. You just broke my arm.
I remember going over to Pedro or to someone and going, "This sucks. I don't want to do this." And then we have a fun one where it is probably it's one of my favorite independent matches ever for the fun factor of me, you, and Ethan Page teaming.
It's the last time I ever wrestled. Against the Duke, Eric Taylor, and Mikey Montgomery.
Yeah. And just like the fun we had going into it, and then there's a really cool photo of the three of us after the match. And it's just, man, it was a fun one. It was just overall.
Then you had a birthday cake or something for me as a surprise.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, because it was your birthday, right?
Yeah, which I hated. I hate any sort of attention. I hate that I'm on this podcast. So
real uncomfortable. I love making you uncomfortable. It makes me happy.
I hate
because you do it to me.
I hate
consistently.
When Little Dill's like, "Okay, everybody, it's the boss's birthday. Let's everybody sing together." Oh, look behind me. Here's a cake.
Why did I turn into Macho Man? All right. We've talked enough about you and I. Now it's about you. I'm putting you on the spot here.
Sure.
So you have literally, and I go over this with you on our catch-ups when I fly in and land at whatever time it is, whatever flight is the absolute cheapest that you find.
You book your own flights. Big shot.
So you have literally brought in everyone you can think of that has made it from the independent level to the next level has been through AIW in some way or the other.
Well, there's a couple of people that haven't, because when I was backstage at AEW the other day, a couple of people let me know, like, "Hey, thanks for responding to that email. Thanks for responding to that email."
Those are my favorite stories from you.
I think it worked out for you, dude.
Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
People love doing that.
Every episode, whether it's Brad Williams, whether it's Kofi, everyone, we talk about pinch me moments in life, in wrestling, all of that. In all of your years of doing this now, promoting wrestling, bringing in guests, all of that, what are two of your most pinch me moments? Moments where you can, like, whether it's like personally, like, man, this is cool because I used to love this guy. Whether it's, man, we're doing something awesome as a company. Whether it's now that Biggins has passed on, man, Biggins would be really proud of this. Like, this would really mean a lot to him. Like, what are a couple of those?
So one for sure is when we were able to bring in Terry Funk, and, you know, me and Biggins are sitting at an IHOP with Terry Funk, you know, one night, and it's the day before a show, and just being able to talk with him. And then the next night at the show, when we're having some drinks with him, and then he gets involved in the show and does this legendary spot on the show. And, you know, we're driving to the bar afterwards, and, well, we're going to go to the hotel bar, and Terry Funk's in my car, and I pull into the hotel, and I see little Guido going a full sprint into the darkness of the night. And I go, oh man, something's wrong here, and Terry Funk's going, where's Guido going? And then my phone rings about 2 minutes later, and it's little Guido, and he's like, the hotel bar was closed, but I ran until I found an open bar. I'm at this bar up the road. Drive up here. He goes, when Terry Funk wants to drink, you run until you find an open bar because you want to drink with Terry Funk, and I don't want you to miss that experience. So drive up here. So we were able to, sit and drink with Terry Funk all night long. And, that was just an awesome experience.
It's still one of my favorite clips ever.
Similarly,
like that.
did something similar with Scott Hall. He was supposed to be, sober guy and all that stuff, but, was able to kind of sit and have a couple drinks with him and get live the Scott Hall shoot interview.
Yeah.
In real life.
It's one of my favorite moments. That's my favorite. One of my favorite. There's that picture. There's that photo of the three of us that has never seen the light of day.
Yeah. I have. I could send it to you, but it's from backstage.
It'll never see the light of day. Yeah.
Well, do you remember there was one? He was having a beer and he had the guy
lead it.
Yeah. And I was just like, look, man, you're an adult. I'm not going to tell you. You know what I mean? You can do whatever you want to do, And, but he was totally fine. He wasn't belligerent or anything.
He was great. He was incredible. And that's when I booked him that weekend for our wrestling con, which was 4 months later. And then COVID hit.
Yeah. But being able to spend a weekend with him and live all that stuff, just stuff like that's incredible. Just when you're able to have a good experience with these guys that you grew up with, you know what I mean? And then, grew up watching, and then, other pinch me moments that you brought up Brit, Biggins has passed, but, Duke and I went down when she won the AEW belt. We flew to Jacksonville to see that happen live.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, super, super, super cool. Just, being able to just kind of see that we can have remained relevant and continue to evolve. We just did a show and, on Saturday, still able to pull 400 people in a town an hour away from Cleveland, just being able to still be able to figure out how to do it, all stuff like that always is a pinch me moment. You know what I mean? Because I'm in the mentality that it can all fall down tomorrow. So, I'm always, super grateful and excited when, things go well. And thankfully things have, it gets dicey sometimes, but, things have gone fairly well, and having to take this kind of on by myself, I do have a good team around me, people like Pedro and Dom, and there's a ton of people that kind of backstage at AIW that help out, but the brunt of everything is I am the number one decision maker now. I don't have Chandler Biggins. Before it was a 50-50, we got to figure it out sort of thing, and now it's just everybody looks to me, and to be able to navigate through all that stuff kind of on my own and build this team around me, I'm very happy that I've been able to keep it going. So those are just a couple, but there's a million.
All right, we always end on pinch me, but that just brought up an idea, a different thing to ask. Give me, to end the podcast, your best guest interaction story.
Oh gosh. My best guest interaction. There's a ton. There's
the one that oh my God, this is happening with this guy.
Well, there's good ones for different reasons. You know what I mean? Funny ones that Vader would refuse to want to leave Applebee's the one time.
I don't know this one. I've known you for 10 years now. I don't know that one.
He just kept eating at Applebee's. Like he got like 3 meals at Applebee's. It was me and it's me, him, and well, I know him as Shima Zion, but he's Joaquin Phoenix or Joaquin Wild in WWE now. We're just like sitting there, we're like, dude, like we gotta go. The show's gonna start. Like we gotta get to the venue. You know,
was he wrestling or just signing?
He was just signing, and then he was going to do a spot on the show, and then
okay,
like Samoa Joe was on the show, and he was
yeah.
He was just like, I got an idea. What about me and Samoa Joe wrestle tonight? And I'm like, well, he's like, that's never been done before, and I'm like, yes, it has. You know, like you guys wrestled the Jersey All Pro. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
10 years ago. So it's never been happened. You want to make some money? You know, like it's just. And then he just didn't get on his flight to go home. So I don't know how he got home, to be perfectly honest with you. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of good. There's a lot of good ones. You know, like the majority of them are very good though. You know, like
that's there are very few.
Just one of the weird. That's just one of the weird
there are
ones.
Very few of them with you that have been negative. I've realized it. I've been around enough of them. Guest bring-ins.
You've been there for a lot of them. You know,
many. But the Sid weekend. The Sid weekend was still one of my favorite stories. Well,
you were there. You were just having.
Yeah.
You were loving every second.
Loving it for you. Loving it for you because ACW never dealt with that before. So I was loving it. You were not happy.
Well, no. I mean, I was out of first class. I think I was out of first class flight. But
first class flight, and then it ended up being EC3. Ended up dressing as Sid and selling Sid 8x10 that weekend.
I had all the 8x10s. Yeah. You know, like that's the stuff that's bad. Is like when the person just doesn't come. Like Phoenix did that before. Pentagon comes, Phoenix doesn't come, and you think it's like the end of the world. And then like, if you're just honest though with the fans, like that's all you can do is be honest. Like that's my policy. Like all you can really do is tell them what's going on. And
I'm not going to take the heat if the heat isn't my fault.
Right. Like I can't. You know what I mean? I can't sit here and be like, hey, like he didn't get on his flight. You know what I mean? Like that's all I can say. That's all I can tell you. You know, like it's like I have the money here. I have everything here. He didn't want to come get it. You know, that's all I can tell you. But what I was going to say is I think that we've had such great luck with a lot of these legends is sometimes you're there or sometimes Fonzie is there. And like we call it the Fonzie factor. And Fonzie can like butter these people up. You know what I mean? If he knows them.
Yeah, baby, this is my favorite place ever, baby. Yeah.
Yep. Dude, so like Ted DiBiase went from like I'm just signing to I'm doing a promo to I'm doing a promo and I'm doing a move and taking a bump, you know, like, so, you know, and that's all Fonzie, you know, so there's just a lot of really good story, you know, there's a lot of good, we've been very fortunate with a lot of these names, like that, you know, some of them have their weird little quirks and things like that, or, you know, you get annoyed, you know, you need a special head on a seat of a plane seat, but you know, stuff like that. But you know, other than that, you can't really you can't really get too much negative stuff, you know, when you're dealing with a lot of these guys. But I mean, you've been there. Like, what are some of your favorite? I have one that stands out, and it's your first weekend.
So one of my favorite other ones is the fact there is a photo, and it's one of my favorite photos of me doing an RKO to Mance Warner with Cowboy Bob Orton on the apron.
Awesome. That was
like,
awesome.
Like it's one of my favorite. I remember sending that photo to Randy Orton and going, "This is insane."
Did you tell the Viper about me?
I 100% told the Viper about you, 100%, and he goes, "God damn it, my dad is still doing these." So like, but like it's that. My first weekend? Who would it have been?
You don't remember this? It's your very first weekend. And we have Billy Gunn in. And he's booked against Brian Myers.
Yes!
He is
This is going to be the end of the show because this is the best thing.
He's throwing a fit and he's just in a bad mood. I don't know him. You know what I mean? Like, I just book him. You guys know him. Like, he's in a bad mood. He's crabby.
He's Billy. You know, he's just Billy.
And, you know, he's just like, you know, like all mad. And you guys are like, what's going on? You know? And like, he's like, oh, fuck. Like, it's you and Hawkins. And he's like, they got me.
No, it's not.
It's not?
It's just me.
Oh, I thought it was you.
I went up to him because he has his goddamn vape and he's just blowing what because I proceeded to go, thank God we don't need a fog machine. We can just use you tonight. Fuck you, Dylan. Because he's just blowing fog from his vape pen into the air. So I go up to him. Well, what's wrong? He goes, I got to wrestle fucking Brian Myers guy. I don't fucking, probably some
local fucking don't know what he's doing.
And I go, that's Hawkins. And he goes, well, no. How come you guys didn't tell me?
Total mood changer.
He was the happiest human ever then. Happiest human ever.
Do you remember then he went out and the crowd just started chanting all his different gimmicks and he
Rockabilly.
Loved it.
The one.
Yeah.
I jumped on commentary for that just so I could watch it.
Yeah. So that's one of the funnier ones that I remember is him being so mad because he thought he was working some like local wrestling student. You know, Brian Myers, never heard of him, you know? And he's like, oh, Kurt Hawkins? All right. And
Night off. This will be good.
Yeah, best mood for the rest of the weekend.
Well, thanks, buddy. This is these are always very awkward when it's my pals, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Guys, let's talk about Mad Cat Beard Care. They make my beard feel soft, silky smooth, and they can do the same for yours. A one-man show since 2019, Mad Cat uses a portion of their sales to care for local stray cats. That money covers their medical bills and finds them safe spaces and forever homes. Their products are made to order with vitamins and all-natural oils that promote strong, healthy hair and moisturize your skin as well. They've got exclusive scents for myself, as well as other wrestlers like my good pal Brian Myers, Mr. Kennedy, and Ring of Honor legend Delirious. Make sure to check out all of their scents, along with my Swoggle scent, which has notes of lavender and sage. I absolutely love this scent. And guys, we've got an exclusive offer for listeners of Going Postl. Use promo code SWOGGLED to save yourself 15% on your orders only at madcatbeardcare.com. That is Swoggled with a D on the end to save yourself 15% on your orders at madcatbeardcare.com. Guys, that's 15% with promo code SWOGGLed. And remember, the Mad Cat makes a happy beard. John, thanks again. For real. It's just fun. It's fun to catch up with friends. I talk to them daily, literally daily. But when we can actually like talk business and take a deep dive to get to the heart of the matter, it's a really, really fun kind of look back at some of the things that we've done together in AIW and together in the ring even. From our match to me versus Scott Steiner to the feud with Brit Baker and all that, AIW has legitimately become my second home, and I am so proud of that. I really, really, really am. So thank you, and thank you guys for listening. I'm loving these small talks. I'm getting more and more comfortable. So thank you, and would love you to leave a comment, a like, leave a review, all that stuff if you could. But before we come to a close, I got to get the plugs in. Everything social media at Going Postl Pod. Instagram, Twitter, all that at Going Postl Pod. Myself at Dylan Postl. YouTube.com/Dylan Postl, where you can get the free video version of this very podcast. See some fun reactions between myself and the guests and everything. YouTube.com/Dylan Postl. ProWrestlingTees.com/Swoggle for all of my t-shirts, including fun podcast related shirt releases, the Thog Life, and everything, all that. Always working. Maybe a ripoff of a certain Always Another Guy's shirt. Made it my own, though. Again, tonight we return to Whatnot for a very, very fun stream. If you want $10 credited for free, a free $10 credit for Whatnot, swoggleauction.com. Go over there, sign up, and get free $10 to use on Whatnot. And then, again, I got to plug the Patreon. Patreon.com/PodXchange. That is Patreon.com/PodXchange. Guys, thanks again. Can't wait to catch you on the next episode.